invitation for you to take this and see what it opens up within your curiosity, your practice, and what you're doing. And I say that very specifically for today because today's Cosmic Library Deep Dive is all about the elementals. And even though we may think of the elementals as something very base or very simple, there is another level that we're going to add to it today that is very important, and that is recognizing that we have outer elementals, which are the ones that we are very familiar with. We have fire, earth, air, water, and ether. These are the 5 elements that we might think of as our outer elements that create our physical reality around us. But I'm going to introduce you to something today referred to as the inner elements. We're also going to dive into the levels of the elements as far as the elements that connect us to the other Aurora platforms, elemental commands. We're going to look at elemental benders. And we're also going to touch into how is this playing within the crystal cathedrals and how we start to work with our different levels of our avatars or our Rasha bodies and why this is so important for each and every one of us. So with that, without further ado, let's dive in to the elementals. And I'm going to go ahead, and as we share the screen, the very first thing that I want to lead into is first our very physical aspect of the elementals. That again, we want to first understand the base template of them. And so what I have here is something that's very, very commonly well known, and this would be our astrological wheel. How our astrological wheel is connected to particular planets, particular elements, particular different energies within creation, that it kind of expands even out. But what we want to kind of recognize from this one's a very extensive one that I was able to find online. This one is a really great depiction of actually showing us how we get bound or tied into archetypes. That when all of the divine aspects of creation emanate into what creates our physical reality around us, that they play out through these archetypes, and the archetypes then play out within our consciousness. So each element has a different energy that portrays within our life, a different characteristic. Each planet that it connects to is going to connect to a different energy that we will act out in our life. A very simple one for us to even play with is the idea of fire, that we know fire is very busy. It likes to move. It is always in a state of action. And that if it's not expanding through consuming something, then it does die out. And within this, it would be connected to Mars and the sign of Aries. It's also connected to the energy of the vibrations of Leo and Sagittarius within the astrological wheel, which would also attune it to the sun and would also attune it to the planetary body of Jupiter. Now, as we look at all of these are going to be vibrations of expansion, of movement. Mars wants to do, Jupiter wants to expand, the sun is the living life force of everything. It wants to constantly give life, be in this perpetual states of consciousness. And each of these is going to play within us and how we act within our life. So the very first thing that we might even want to attune or touch into is how the elements are actually influencing us or affecting us within our life. Because as we work with them, we are going to go through a process of recognizing what they are so that you can then learn how to unhook yourself. There's actually a phrase, it's more that you dissolve out of them. Let's first look at this from the perspective. This is a book that you can look at. This is from Douglas Gabriel. This is from A Theory of Everything. It's one of his books, A Theory of Everything. And he is one of the co-authors with the books, the Sophia Gospel series, an incredibly beautiful trinity of books that I highly recommend. So let's just go ahead and start playing within this. It says right here, the human being is surrounded by the donations of the solid, fluid, air, and plasma elements that comprise a multidimensional, multi-time, multi-conscious manifestation we call Earth. There are many beings involved in these processes who were active in prior times and space to create our surroundings. Those surroundings are donations of these beings that have been placed here for humans to use in order to achieve independent consciousness. That is why these beings conceal themselves. They do not want to alarm our materialistic minds with the living revelation of their being until the right organs are developed and the time is right. There's a huge amount of information packed in here. So this is basically starting to just lead us into the very same concepts we look at within any of the chelantic or ascension mechanics materials, as well as any of the womb chakra work. What this is really saying is that all of the elements are actually angels. They are actually living conscious beings, and they donate of their consciousness and their energy in order to be able to step down into what manifests in these morphogenetic fields that we call our physical reality around us. But that most of us are completely unaware of the living consciousness of all of the elements that are around us. We're so removed from the elemental kingdom that we don't even recognize all of these multidimensional angelic and conscious beings that are all around us. And this is really important for us to start to tap into as part of this awareness. So as we look at this, I want to take you now just really quickly through a few more pages in this particular book, which is quite amazing. And as we look at this one, he then goes on to talk about how matter is created. Matter is music slowed down. According to Steiner, so this is Rudolf Steiner, according to Steiner, architecture is frozen sound. Atoms and elements all seem to dance to the music of the spheres in their chemical exchanges that happen harmoniously throughout nature. The elements are a symphony of harmonious sharing that reflects cosmic order through the processes of a complete cycle of 7 and its morphogenetic power, metamorphic power over time. Two things to really tap into here. This again is much more of a beautiful poetic way of saying that truly the very first emanation is the sound. It's the kundalini, the sound. And how do these elements reflect out? They are a symphony of harmonious sharing that is reflected out through this complete cycle of 7. Now, they're going to have a little bit of a different spin on the 7, but it's still a reflection of the ka tha ra energy. So the ka ra ya sa ta ha la. And we know that the ka ra ya sa ta ha la is going to be the energy that connects us into the different fem families or the angelic families, which are the Seta fems. So it's the Rhea fems, the Seta fems, and the Hala fems all emanate out of this reflection of the 7. So as we start to see this, we're going to recognize that when you start to really connect to the elementals, part of this is about creating a relationship with them. And if you click on the 5 elements activations, that one of the first things we get to see here is that without the 5 elements, there's no chance to waken up the channels. So there's really no other levels of really integrating your Kathara body. That 12 tree sphere of life, any of the yantras, all the yantras are just different aspects of working with your 12 tree sphere of life if you really start to dive into it. The 5 elements are a must. You have to remember that the elements you have to remember the elements mantras exactly. So we'll talk into why is this so important, but basically why, because they're a song. So it's as though you have to sing their song just right. When you sing their song, you hook into them. They become a part of you, and later you learn them, and then you can start to command on them. So within this, he's saying at a certain stage, certain point, it automatically hooks the energy. Through your eyes, if you want to heal somebody, you can send unbelievable energy. You can send tons of love. How are you sending that energy and that love? Through the elementals. The elementals are what you've hooked into, and then through them, they become the channels and the conduits of miraculous gifts and abilities that you can begin to transform this physical reality that you are in. Now, I will come back to this, but I did want to highlight on this for everybody because within here, one of the very first processes, and I'm going to touch on this a little later in our deep dive today, is that these are the elemental caves of creation. These are working with a different aspect or a different layer of the elements. And you're going to see that the guardians have already very purposefully guided us through the techniques and the ways in which we work with things, because I want to just place as a knowing in the back of your mind that before you really work with the base elements, the physical elements, the elements that are bound within the carbon reality, you want to be activating all the way up into your spirit level, so your Rasha level of elements, and you want to also be activating all the way up into your plasma body of elements, so the Trua body, plasma elements, and then also working with elemental commands. Now, that might not sound like something you know what that is right now, but you're going to see that you've already been working with it diligently, probably on a daily basis. And part of that is the Crystal River Prayer. So the Crystal River Spiral, the Crystal River Prayer, and activating those Christic elementals are key, because before we work with any of the base elementals, we want to be already hooking into the higher dimensional aspects of elementals, and we'll dive into a little bit more of why. So within this, as we understand this, we're now going to just kind of jump back. I just wanted to precip that so you're going to see how all of this is going to tie in together. We're going to precip this with an energy of going like, okay, well, who is Shiva? Am I connected to Shiva? Some of you may have an awareness of Shiva. Some of you may not have any connection to the idea of Shiva. When we look at this through the Vedic teachings, we're going to see that even though Shiva takes on a physical form, when you look at anything within Hindu, within Buddhism, within kind of any teaching on earth, you're going to see that we try to humanize absolutely everything. We want to give it a human body. We want to make it relatable. We want to give it a form that we feel like we can talk to and connect to. Well, Shiva is the embodiment of all of the elements. And within this, it is important to now start to understand that Shiva's energy is basically the embodiment of the base elements. There is a mantra that we work with when we connect to this. And this one, if you actually look at it in kind of any kind of search, especially if you search this out on YouTube, you'll find so many mantras where people will just do the Om Namah Shivaya mantra over and over and over again. Well, in the very beginning, I think it's understandable that most of us just think, oh, they're just revering this God or this deity that they're connecting to. And we might just walk away and not think anything else of it. But truly, Shiva is actually the representation of the primordial energies that are embodied and held within form. And each of these sound tones are like a bija that represent one of the elements. Na is earth, Ma is fire, Shi is sky, Va is water, Ya is air. Nama Shi Va Ya, earth, fire, sky, water, air. Now, these are all in unison with the five. And we're going to see as we dive into another book the importance of the number five, that we are in a five base system. This is going to even be connected to Venus and the Venusian sacred geometries, the star, the symbol of the star. This is really when we think of five, we have five fingers on our hands, we have five toes. There is the 2 arms, 2 legs, and the appendage of our head. We are like a star if we were standing. So there is something very important as to this representation, that when we are in a humanoid form here in this level, in this carbon-based body, we are holding the 5, or the phi, even if you want to look at it this way, template. And it's just one aspect of creation. So part of us starting to actually tune into what we are going to refer to as the outer elements. The outer elements are connected to Shiva. They are connected to this energy of Shiva, and you have to hook Shiva first before you can ever hook the mother. Now, this is different for us, right? There's a lot of us that have maybe been like, oh my goodness, we've been directly connected to wanting to work with the divine cosmic mother and the mother energy. Well, just in the same way as we connect to Ile Sama, our divine cosmic or Cosmaya mother, well, she is Elisa Melchizedek. And so in her name as a whole holds the divinity of the mother and the father. So within this, I wanted to first begin to start to bring in this vibrational energy of these sound tones within creation. And that as we look at these, that we're going to see in a few different ways that these are going to be referenced as Shiva is the top soul, as Sri Kalishwar likes to put it. And even when we think of the energy of the Divine Mother, say maybe in her Kali form, we always see that the Divine Mother is actually suppressing the Shiva. Well, why? Because the Shiva, when it embodies all of it, all of the Maya, all of the illusion will disappear. So when we actually can move beyond, we start to dissolve the matter that holds us into place. And so this is very much a physics thing, you guys. Not so much that we're worshiping deities, but we're really becoming adepts and very much more in a state of gnosis to the different ways that creation expresses itself, from pure vapor light forms down into these physical densities, these crystallized forms that we exist in. So within here, let's go ahead and we're gonna kind of hop through a few different documents within here. And the next one that we're going to look at is a particular book. This one is not available on the library area yet, and I have been guided to not put it on there, but this is going to be kind of a taste of it for now. This will probably be something that gets added maybe sometimes towards the middle of 2025. When we start to move into some other practices. So within this, as we start to look at this, now we're looking at a vibration of activations of energies, putting all 5 elements into one. So within this, I'm just going to read a little bit within here. And it says, now we're going to the 5th stage. So honestly, Panchama actually means 5. And within this is actually starting to describe another mantra, and this is actually a mantra that starts to blend all 5. But all of these are meant to be done after you've really activated all of the elements. So within here it says there is some secrecy in the number 5 numerology. Throughout the Indian tradition, they gave priority to the number 5. In the Mahabharata, how many brothers were there? 5. God normally gives 5 fingers to a human being. There are 5 elements. In the Parama Shiva Yoga, the Panchamama stage is the unbelievable turning point. Whoever can reach this 5th stage can win Mother Divine in their life. Winning Mother Divine means you can communicate with her forever and ever. There is still a small chance you can fail, but mostly you will get success. So I love it. He always leaves that little bit in there. Says, hey, you follow the techniques. And I will say he is very, very specific that when we work with these techniques, when you do your mantras, when you're doing the elemental activations, when you're doing the womb chakra mantras, when you're doing any of the mantras, All of the mantras are meant to be done within a certain state of consciousness where you are tuning out the rest of the world. They are meant to take you into trance-like states, as if you were doing a breathwork meditation and doing rapid breaths, or doing some sort of breathing technique where that was all you were focusing on. The mantras are exactly the same. And when we recognize that these mantras are the symphonies or the sound tones or doorways, we would want to have a focal point of allowing them to take us out of our three-dimensional consciousness and into these other realms and places where we can start to connect. So all the elementals are also very much similar to our chakras. They're doorways into other levels of consciousness of divine creation. So within here, I actually didn't mean to stop on exactly this part. I just had highlighted this. There is a level to this that, let me just kind of touch on this because I do find this very fascinating. Is a lot of times we want to manifest in creation. So there's a lot of individuals that will take this kind of knowledge and they will use the mantras, they will utilize the information in order to achieve greater things in the physical world. We call those dark magicians. A dark magician is someone who basically is just utilizing the sacred mechanics, but they're utilizing it to gain more power, to have more knowledge, to have more of whatever it is that their ego wants more of in this reality, because that's generally what a fallen angelic or a dark magician is looking for. Their ego is hungry for more, 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 because they're not actually attuning to the eternal nature and surrendering and dissolving into oneness. They don't want to. So it's very interesting that when we think of this, because all of these practices, the end result of them many of the times is leading us to dissolve out of this physical reality. And I will read this. It says, for people who reach the Avadhut stages, so this is going to be an individual who can literally dissolve out of and literally break free from all of the base or the outer and even inner elementals. Then you become an Avadhut. Well, what this is someone that doesn't exist in this world anymore. And he's saying here that if somebody reaches this stage, that they will live the rest of their life asking for food, eating under trees and chanting the prayers. All they're going to be doing is japa, japa, japa. So their practice. Well, that sounds like the last thing a lot of people are looking for. Many people are looking to activate these things because they want to manifest bigger, greater things in their life. And the idea of actually dissolving from this reality to the point where you would be so one with creation that you wouldn't need anything in this reality. I just want to plant that seed within there because, he's giving this example through especially individuals who would have been living exactly like this, like Shirdi Baba would have. He was a beggar and he remained a beggar his entire life. The only thing that he had was his power object, which was his brick, and nobody even knew what it was his whole life. They just were like, oh, dude, he's crazy. He carries his brick around with him everywhere. Why? What was his power object? And that was how he actually helped do a lot of the energy of activating things and a lot of the miraculous things. You could think of the being that we would think of as Jesus Christ or Yeshua on the planet. He was always wandering. He was a traveler. He basically was in many ways like Shirdi Baba. He wasn't having or accruing a lot of things. He was moving and moving and he was taking meals wherever he went. So it's very interesting. There is a level of mastery that you could actually live in this world and have nothing, but literally have everything because it's like the universe just constantly provides it for you. There's actually a book in the books, the library section, the books and PDF section in the library, and it's called The Children of Atlantis, I believe it's called. Um, and it's a particular book, and the guy who wrote it, he actually did this. and this is kind of more real time. It's an interesting story as you go through it. And he basically surrendered everything and just went wherever he was guided, and literally always had a place to sleep, always had food to eat, always had anything. And I think if you look, there's quite a few people that we don't hear about them very much, but they're completely living their life like this. Well, this is something that starts to expand once you start to master the elementals. You would have to master the elementals. Now, when you start to work within this energy, it says it means if you charge the highest cosmic energy in you through your vibrations, through your energy, you get huge commanding on the 5 elements. Then automatically your soul can connect to any soul, any spirit, and any angel in the universe. You can command on the gods and the goddesses, whatever it is, period. This is massive, you guys. If you listen or read a lot of, say, even the Hindu types of teachings, the Mahabharata and these kinds of things, they talk about this concept of boon. That if you can hook Mother Divine, if you can hook Shiva, if you can hook a particular elemental being or an energy, then they offer you a boon, which is like a blessing. It's kind of like capturing a genie in a bottle, and then the genie comes out and says, "Great, what is it that you want? What is your wish?" And they can grant that wish. You can sort of think of it this way. And that's going to be very similar in many of these teachings. Is you're going to see that there is a commanding on the elements and a commanding on creation. Well, most individuals are not developed enough to know how to utilize these on the highest level. So, this is something to start to think about as you're working with this vibration of the elementals. What is the integrity within your heart? What would you ask for? And if you don't understand or know what you're asking for, it's better to ask for nothing than to ever take a boon from one of these beings, because the minute you take something, you're still bound in some way. So you have to make sure that whatever that ask is, another concept would be the negotiation with, then you have to make sure that whatever it is, it's for the eternal purpose of your soul and not just some quick fix in this human life or in this reality. So he says here, how to identify when you have the 5 elements in your control. And these again are the 5 outer elements. How can we know when we have the highest 5 element vibrations in our body? How can we feel when the 5 elements are minimum of 50% in our control? How can we identify these vibrations? Here are some of the symptoms. If you close your eyes, you can clearly see some big water like a lake, an ocean, or a river flowing peacefully. You are seeing it as a vision. Or if you want to see fire, immediately you see it in your third eye, the pure light of a campfire burning or some other flame. If you want to see air, you'll start to see big winds or tornadoes in your vision. In the earth, you will see it like a globe. He says, that's my experience. And the sky, you will see the stars and the moon, the huge, glorious infinitude. There are the clear symptoms your soul is attached to the 5 elements. So this is really important. This is why we spend a lot of time when we are doing the activations. When we do the activations to the 5 elements, we are doing this because first you have to get to know them. So as you get to know them, they become alive inside of you. They already are alive inside of you. It's just now you're starting to create that relationship with them, to know them, and to actually bring them forward as a being, an angel that you're working with. The main thing as we get to recognize this is that we have to break free from all of these. And if you don't know what's controlling you, very much like this energy of all of this astrological wheel, if you don't know what's controlling you, then how are you ever going to break free from it? This is the most important thing that we are working with. So as we kind of move down here, I'm going to move to, I wanted page 113. He touches in now in Indian tradition, so talking about guardian angels. Because what are we connecting to when we start to hook the elementals? When you activate the elementals, who can you start talking to? the gods, the angels, divine creation. Basically, he's in kind of another language. He's saying you're opening up your multidimensional communication channels and having access to communication to other stations and identities of creation and beings that are existing all around us that we've just been maybe cut off from in our consciousness. So guardian angels, in the Indian tradition, there's a strong belief that when God sends each person to this planet, God sends each person one angel. Until you die, that one angel, your guardian angel, completely follows you. Then, by using your guardian angel, you can create many angels around. Those angels, without your notice, bring God in front of you. Now, I wanted to just kind of bring this just as, again, seeds of thought I'm planting for you guys, because this is massive. These are the Paramashiva practices. So, bottom line, I just want to say this, and so that you guys can utilize maturity within this information, is that before even touching some of the stuff that we're reading on, we're reading from a book that is basically the Paramashiva practices, the Paramashiva channels and activations. There's 21 of them. And within here, there's two that I will share on the platform as things that we can work with that don't mess with all the other energy of it. And one of these is the fear mantra. And another one is an energy of activating energy to draw things faster to you. So basically, this is activation number 1. When we were reading number 5, which is bringing all the elements together, there's obviously 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're the first 5 stages of this process. And number 1 just starts to help you start to hook to the energy. And then as you connect in with the mantra of fear, this one's really powerful to just start to dispel energy. So the very first 2 energies are really about opening up your energy, and 2, starting to get rid of fear. So those ones they've said are okay for us to start to work with, because as we start to amplify this energy out, what is happening is that you're gonna start drawing more and more beings to you. Well, he's talking here that we have connection to the angels, and we all have a guardian angel. I think we've heard that in different modalities of teaching before. But he says something very interesting here. He's saying that when you work with your guardian angel, you can start to, and he says it very specifically, you can create many angels around. Well, we know the angels are connected to the elementals. They are like sprites. They're like elemental beings. They are like fairies in some ways. Some of them, as we're going to see, that they're attuned into these realms and these fields. But you can create many angels around you, which means that you are not only opening the doorways to them, but now it's like you are creating a field of energy, that your aura is actually amplified by an angelic field, which is amazing, because what are you? You're an angelic human. You're an aura theme. If you are at all, again, I say this statement a lot, if you're at all even interested in the stuff that we talk about, 100%, you're an angelic human one, but you are also connected to many times the Fem families, or the Orifeme, to these Christos lineages that hold activations of these angelic codings within you. What is an angel? An angel is a being, doesn't have to be in a form, it's just a being that has the ability to move multidimensionally through creation. That's all an angel is. It's really amazing for you to recognize that if you are an angelic human, it means you're in a human form, but your angelic aspect has codings within you that give you the ability to open up your consciousness multidimensionally and begin to commune with the beings in different planes and be that messenger through the different planes of consciousness. So I think that's pretty amazing. So let's go ahead. I'm going to look at a couple more pages in here, and we're going to move to 268. So again, talking about the Avadhut stage, which is the blending of all of the elements, that We're going to expand beyond these so that we can start to realize how are we going to hook the energies that come from other dimensional planes. So beyond the five elements, again, we want to become free from them. So once you got the channels, you're completely free from this planet. One more time, you guys. This stuff is huge. I hope you guys are getting how huge this is. Once you got the channels, well, what are the elements doing? You have to awaken the elements. So you awaken the energies. This is the same as all the flame body teachings that we're doing. You're awakening the energies within you so that you can then start to open up the channels of energy. And now once the channels of energy flow from basically one level of your identity to a next, even in this 15-dimensional time matrix, you have 12 levels of avatar moving through. So you're opening the channels to all of your levels of identity. When you got the channels, you're completely out of this planet. Your 12 tree sphere of life is literally connected to all these different planetary bodies and constellations within creation, all these stargates. He says, forget about all the karmas, all the people, whatever it is, you're completely out. Once you start to do some of your real channels, you don't belong at all, even 1% to this planet. It's called the Avadhut stage. Beyond the five elements, I'll explain in the heart chakra how it really can grow. It's a simple 4-day process you have to do when you're here. I'm just going to skip down. He's saying this process, as you go through it, it's a little intense, but the main thing is I wanted to say is this part right here. It's your heart chakra. Your heart chakra begins to grow. After your heart chakra is grown, that's it. Then in the heart chakra, there's the seed of the Shri chakra that can break the illusions very strongly and connect to Mother Divine through your heart. One of the key things I want to say here, because this is really big, we talk a lot about people starting to feel alone or out of place or like they don't fit in. Well, Sri Kalishwar is saying it right here. He says, once you've activated it, you're completely out. You don't even belong to this planet, not even 1%. You don't even belong to this planet. So now let me go to 345. I'm going to jump on a few more things here. Now, as we start to look at this, we're going to start to move into a little bit of the concept of the inner element. So we know Shiva, the outer element. Shiva, when the energy of Shiva is hooked, think of Shiva again as kind of like the pure nuclear energy, the pure atomic energy within your cells, with the atoms in your body and that nucleus of power center that's within there. That's kind of like the Shiva energy that is expressing itself within creation. And so within the outer, then we have the level of starting to connect to the inner elements. Now, the inner elements are really quite amazing, because as we start to get inwards, what are we doing? We're breaking the soul's illusions. So within here, we get to show this vibration of now Mother Divine. Mother Divine is the inner energy of all five elements. In the fire, there is the Shakti, the burning nature. The Shakti is Mother Divine. In water, there is the Shakti. That is Mother Divine. In the air, there is an energy. That is Mother Divine. In the ether, there is a Shakti. That is Mother Divine. Mother Divine is deeply hidden in every part. She is hidden creator of the elements energy, but the entire control of the elements belongs to Shiva. Shiva has the overall controlling energy of the elements. So as we look at this, we're going to see that our primary first process within what we are doing is working with activating. And I'm going to come down here. I will say, and that was just, I don't want to focus on that too much, but the inner fire is a Mahakali prayer. You're going to find that once you do get to the stage where you will work with the inner elements, they're very intense. They're not going to be for everyone. This is not something that's going to be necessarily part of the flame holders as an activating process, but it is going to be an option if somebody wants to go through it. And primarily, it is intense. Each of them you have to do 10,008 times. It's not like this little process to do them. It's quite intense. But it says, Here are some ways for us to start to recognize why it's important to balance them. So now we have the 5, but if we have the 5, we need to know that they have to be in balance with each other. If we are out of balance, we will always be stuck within the illusion. If we do not balance all of the aspects within ourselves and make a connection to all of the angels, if you will, then we become a bound being within the Maya or the illusion, and we will attract strange illusions into our reality. Imbalances. Primarily, another way of saying this is recognizing, especially if you do the soul coaching course. You go into through the soul coaching course, what are we doing? We're looking for the programs. We're looking for the beliefs. We're looking for the triggers. Well, why are we looking for those? Because those are the illusions. Those are the places where we have a belief that something, that we are unlovable, that we are not good enough, that we are unwanted, all of these different things that we start to feel. The illusions are all of the things that get stuck in our limbic system or our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn activators in our body. And within that, the illusions are what keep us playing them out for an entire incarnational cycle and many incarnational cycles, as we will see in one of the next documents. So it says, after you open the fire channels, if there's any guarantee it will work for you, 4 more elements also have to cooperate in you. For example, if the water element is so weak in you, maybe the fire can't really help you. All the elements have to be balanced. So he's saying if they're not balanced right here, if they're not cooperating with us, you're shaky on this planet. So for those of you that might be new to Sri Kaleshwar, English was not his first language. I have fallen in love with his metaphors for the ways he's learned to describe things. So he says you're shaky on this planet. What this means is, what is shaky? Let's take this into another way. Shaky means, and let's take it in this way. I'm sure all of you have had moments, whether you've been doing breath work, mantras, meditations, activations, some kind of journey, where in that moment, there's a key moment where you lost yourself and you became part of the oneness. And when your consciousness literally broke free from the third dimensional realms of consciousness and you became part of the oneness, it's like expansiveness became a part of you. This is part of the reason why a lot of people like to take plant medicine, because the plant medicine forces them out of these gateways. And when that happens, there's this sense of interconnectedness, of oneness, of almost as though the libraries of the universe are being made accessible to you again. Well, that's as if you've just amplified yourself into a particular frequency, and your consciousness is attuned to that frequency. Well, then what happens? You come down. You start to come down. You start to come more and more back into your body, more and more back into this awareness. So what happens is that you realize that as you want to attune to higher levels of your consciousness, higher mind, higher self, you become shaky. What is shaky? You're driving down the road and you're totally fine because you're in this higher mind, higher state of being, but all of a sudden you see something on the side of the road. Maybe it's somebody falls down on the side of the road. Maybe an animal, somebody isn't treating an animal nicely, and you're driving past that, and guess what happens? You become shaky. You click outside of higher mind, higher self, and you get pulled into the Maya. You get pulled into the illusion. Your nervous system gets hijacked. You feel bad. You feel sad. You feel panic. You can feel all kinds of things get triggered. That is what shaky is. Shaky is that we are in a state where it's still very difficult for us to hook into an energy and hold it so strongly that anything going on in the illusion doesn't shake you out of it. That is massive, you guys. Don't worry, we're all in it. We're all in the illusion. We're all in the Maya. This isn't a thing to pop our bubble in any way. It's to help us understand, what are we doing? Well, generally, he's saying if we get shaky, it's because we haven't mastered the elements yet. We haven't commanded on them. We haven't learned them, and they are not balanced within us. And we can go in and start to do the work and say, wait, where am I? Where am I? Where am I? What do I need to do in order to shift and change that in a completely other way? So he's saying again, you have to be balanced. Now, within this, I do want to just do one more on this one, and 460. So as we look at this, again, all processes are to break the illusion. And this is one of my favorite statements in here. This one, like when I first read this, it just felt like so many layers of illusion fell away. It was amazing. But this is about remembering, okay, the outer elements. It's connecting to the atom, the Shiva energy, that the atomic energy, that which is creating all of the base energies that create creation. But Mother Divine is inside. So in order to hook that, there's these other activations we do to get into the inner elements. Once you get into the inner elements take you to the 0 point field. They take you to that nothingness phase within, the void within, the divine cosmic mother. And let me just tie this into Rashabadi, because this is where we're heading next. But he's saying right here, he says, I love this. He actually says this right here. I think this is super cute. He says, somebody was asking him a question. He's like, I'm not sure what you're saying, but one part you are using some very good words, but in my English, I'm a very small boy. He's trying to say, I don't, remember you guys, English is not my first language. So what are you saying? But anyways, he's saying once you're channeling the energy, once you're having a darshan of the mother, the divine mother. So again, this can only happen once you've started to hook the inner elements, to hook the mother. To hook the mother sounds amazing, but again, we catch fleeting glimpses, but to hook the mother completely is a whole other thing once we've really activated it. Because he's saying here, when you've hooked the mother, you're completely walking out of all of the 5 elements. You don't know exactly what's happening to you at the time. You're completely out of the 5 elements. It would be literally like stepping into 5D consciousness or 6D consciousness, and literally you've stepped out of carbon-based form, and now you're starting to have silica-based consciousness, crystalline-based consciousness. It's completely different. There's nothing in this reality that we could even give a metaphor to that would start to explain it, because you're completely out. And in some ways, even though I don't really like utilizing this metaphor that much, but you'll hear people do, and I'm actually going to utilize the bufo, the toad or the frog. I've never done it personally, but just hearing people's experiences of it is this heart opening expansion. It's just like something like you're in your body, poof, you're out of your body. But when they're out of the body, it's like this expansiveness into the cosmos, into oneness, into just this sense of love, this massive heart awakening energy. Well, it's boom, it's just like that. And from that place, you don't have an awareness of your physical body or earth. You don't even become aware of earth anymore. You're not there. So this is really important for us to understand. It's saying that when we've truly started to hook this energy, you're completely out of the 5 elements. It's a separation between the nature and you. You're walking out from nature, but you're still in nature, but you're out of nature, and you're watching nature from the form of Mother Divine. Whatever you want, she dissolves her energy in you when she's dissolving in you. So basically, you dissolve in her, and she becomes part of what is dissolved into you. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just so beautiful, you guys. If we really start to understand this, I mean, we start to, in some ways, get to sense and feel the divine cosmic body of creation as this sense of, many times even stepping into the crystalline core of the earth in that meditation, you could begin to sense Earth's body is your body. And there's aspects of that meditation that you can take it out further, that the earth body feels so small, almost as though it's inside of you when you can expand your consciousness even more. It's really quite amazing. So now let's take this very energy and I want to move to page 199 because I want to just start to show a couple of the ways in which we start to connect to these beings. And this is going back to the theory of everything from Douglas Gabriel. And he's got a section here called Elemental Beings and the Ethers. I love this. So within here, we get to recognize that if we look at these kinds of ether and with the spiritual vision that sees elemental beings, we find that the elemental beings of the etheric spheres are light beings, number beings, and beings who carry life streaming through the cosmos. These beings are quite different from the beings in the lower elemental kingdoms. Man's etheric body is connected with the entire sphere of nature spirits in our environment. The nature spirits, the descendants of the beings of the third hierarchy, are the little master builders and foremen of the kingdoms of nature. The gnomes carry life either into the roots, they carry the ether in which they live into the roots. The undies cultivate the chemical ethers in the plants, the sylphs, the clear light ether, and the fire spirits, the warmth ether. We should point to the fact that just as the lower elements, earth, water, air, and warmth, are inhabited by elemental beings, so are other beings in the etheric elements, light, ether, chemical ether, sound ether, and life ether. But the latter elemental beings are very different from the elemental beings in the lower elements. So I wanted to bring this in, first of all, to start to give you a little bit of a visual of how the elementals are these actual other angels or beings in creation. They truly are when you start to connect to them. They're very playful. Many of them actually have quite a mischievous energy. There is a huge connection that you can make to these beings. But even within here, this book with Douglas Gabriel, looking at it from even some of these Gnostic or wisdom teachings here, you're going to see there is even the concept of the lower elements and then the ether or the higher elements that we can start to connect to. And I just thought it was so fun because I do have a bit of a love for the little gnomes. I've actually done some amazing soul journeys, like QHHT kind of sessions with individuals where got to learn more about these realms, and they're quite different maybe than the way gnomes have been depicted here on planet Earth. They have such a connection and a gift that they are to the nature realm. So right here, gnomes were created by detaching parts of archive beings. Undies came from archangels, undines, and the sylphs came from angels. The salamanders were detached from a group of souls of animals in the dynamis. The thrones have undines, the cherubim, the sylphs, and the seraphim, the salamanders, the sum of the four groups of the elemental beings in the etheric body of the earth. The sun is active in all the earthly elements, and after it has penetrated and inoculated all of them, it works upon the human being through them by way of the servants, which we call elemental beings. The matter is built up in a way the Christ has gradually arranged it. One will find the Christ right down to the laws of chemistry and physics. So this is actually really important for us to understand as well. Not only does he touch into the energy of the living sun spirit, I didn't touch on that within this book, but even over here, within page 385, within the Paramashiva book, we're going to see in this creation the most supreme energy is the sun. Without the sun, there is no energy to produce anything. From the sun's energy, the Shri Chakra was born. From the Shri Chakra's energy, the Brahma Kundalini was born. From the Brahma Kundalini, the Siddhic powers came. So you can actually think of these Siddhic powers even as kind of a connection to these elementals. From the Siddhis, the human souls, the human creation came. The Siddhis command on the five elements, and everything in creation is made up of the five elements. So within that, let's go ahead and jump into a whole other level of thinking. And as we just constantly get to see this, I'm gonna kind of stick with a bit of the lower, just for a few more moments in here. This is from the Dance for Life book. This is coming from page 188 within here. And this is really tying us into why are we doing the flame body techniques. Pretty much all of the flame body techniques within the Dance of Life a book have to do with clearing out the shadow body and all of the attachments. And this is where we learn a lot about the shadow dancers and the elemental attachments, right? So within here, I'm just going to read this quick little paragraph right here. And it says, elemental attachments are trapped elemental spirit beings from the planetary elemental field and phantom matrix that are drawn into the bodies and biofields of humans, animals, plants, minerals, and elements from the living time matrix through the shadow body and inorganic Metatronic Wheezadak universal shield implant systems. So within here, that's honestly another way of saying exactly what Douglas Gabriel was saying in A Theory of Everything with those different elementals. It gets difficult for us to understand, well, how are these Wheezadak beings, how are these shadow dancers attaching to us? Our entire physical body, we are not our body. Our body is actually made up of all of these different beings, elemental beings, etheric beings. They move in different stages. And these are the beings that many times get hijacked. Right? So when we see these elemental attachments are trapped elemental spirit beings. So as they are trapped, where do they play out? Many times these are playing out in our thoughts, in our feelings, and even sometimes the past life memories and things that come up within us. So it says, the living forms to which they attach via the shadow body shield bonding serve as a prison for the phantom elements trapped within it, as they cannot evolve to reclaim their original organic divine blueprint while their reversed matrix templates are carrying elemental, are metatronically bonded to the reversed matrix. So this is key to you guys, because as we think of this, this says that if we're not doing the internal work, if we're not doing the clearing work, if we're not clearing out the shadow bodies within us, if we're not finding the trapped, attached soul fragments within us, they remain trapped. Our body is a prison for them. And unless we learn these practices to transmute and actually be the crystal river spiral for these beings to have safe passage back home, they will also just go back bound into the matter form, into another reincarnational cycle. And that's literally what's been happening on this planet for millions of years, is that these elemental attachments have basically been imprisoned in the earth field because very few people know how to do the sphere of Amenti activations to help get these beings back home. So this is part of our mission and our plan, is to really help a lot of these beings begin to clear out and move. And I know there's so many different things I could show within for this you guys. Let me just do this last one within here. I wanted to just kind of show again, because we do mention the word carbon a lot. The carbon is based within the matter, the mother. Carbon is the form-giving element throughout organic nature. It combines with hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and itself to create the organic world composed of millions of compounds, while the other 72 elements create only tens of thousands of inorganic compounds. So again, carbon is binding. And this is part of, we're not going to get into this, we talk about it a bit, but the hijacking of the mother's body and turning her into the dark matter mother, the Akamoth mother, and then giving birth to these Leviathan beings. This is what they're doing. They're trapping an already binding energy, and then they are fully and completely utilizing it to give birth to forms within here that are creating distortions within creation. But just as the letters of the alphabet form every word in the dictionary, amino acids congregate in an endless array of patterns to form protein molecules that influence and define every cell in our body. And again, it's just saying these four primary elements become the building blocks that can create over 50,000 proteins and 15,000 enzymes found in the human body. So it's just another interesting way, and I think that's the last I'm going to reference in this book, so I'm going to shut this down so I can have more space within here, is to recognize that we are the physical manifestation of these things. Even though we are talking about things from a spiritualized point of view, it goes back and forth. And we want to recognize that our very consciousness transcends the level of our carbon-based body, and how do we start to activate that? So now let's dive into, this is coming from the 12 tribes and the 12 tribes material and 12 tribes classes. This is amazing. This is basically the first integration of really starting to learn a lot of the Bardo and the safe transit passage information, how to glide and how to slide, and where we really started to dive into what is our Rasha body, what is our Rasha lay, what are these different layers of our body, and how are they influencing us. So let's just kind of just be clear here. We're transitioning into the next level of conversation within our elements. We've talked about the outer elements and the inner elements. Well, the inner elements then combine into the etheric body. And the etheric body, at the center of these outer elements, is the connection to the divine cosmic mother. Well, we know the etheric template is the energy that starts to breathe in the light field from all of our other 12 tree grid of life spiritualized identities. And so it starts to breathe us out from our carbon-based or our atomic or our physical structure, starts to then breathe out. As it breathes out into what we would call our light body. As we start to activate within consciousness of our light body, we start to actually, and from there we'd start to actually attune. There's the astral body within there, but then we start to tune into our crystal body. Our crystal body is activating us into higher dimensionals up. Well, then after we pass through, the crystal body starts to tune us up into the 12th sphere. We pop out of that. Once we start to pop out of that, we start to move into our Rasha body. Our Rasha body moves us into dimensions 16, 17, and 18 and starts to activate our spirit body. Our spirit body then activates us into more of our core domain world body that starts to open up our plasma body. We are at a place in our evolutionary time, and the materials that we are working with and the conversations that we are having, is that we are primarily focusing on working with and activating our plasma body. But in order to do that, we have to keep working with all the other body systems embodied within it down to our physical form, in order to make sure that we are clearing out any of the trapped elementals that might be keeping us bound to Maya. Any trapped elementals keep us bound to Maya, keeps us bound to reincarnation and incarnational cycles back in a planetary body, primarily the one where you are bound. If you guys can grab that, oh my gosh, it is huge. So let's go ahead and dive into this. We're now going to look at the 12 tribes information, and within this graph of the different elements, what I want to do is just start to talk about some of the ways our body is developed within here. So right in here, this essential truth at once simple and profound is that our planet, solar system, and the Milky Way galaxy have fully entered a cycle of completion and renewal, as the Mayans and others from long ago have tried to tell us. And regardless of whether if any of us choose to learn the dynamics by which this cycle unfolds, its progression will become more inconveniently apparent as on Earth as time moves on, if we don't choose to look. So within this, we are working with an energy here, and I'm going to be summarizing some of this. So this information is really talking about our Rasha lay. If we can kind of see this here within the green, our Rasha lay, which is connected to our Partikai body, which is our dark, oops, let me shrink that down. It is our dark matter body. So this is connected to our spirit body, our dark matter body. Our dark matter body is also composed of 15 Gilesiic radiation rings and 15 crystalline bands called spans, and which serves as the dark matter template for our physical matter body. So just as the same way that we live in a 15-dimensional time matrix and we have this 12-tree grid of life that our entire morphogenetic template is built upon, it's saying that once you click out of this 15-dimensional time matrix, you're actually just now starting to step into the next sequence, which would be like another 15-dimensional time matrix, if you will, that is going to be connected to this energy of your Rasha or your Rasha body. Now, within here, it is connected to our template for our physical matter body and the auric light body structures. So whatever the morphogenetic field of our Rasha body is, that is the direct imprint that starts to move down. Well, this is why our Rasha body has been the most targeted within creation, because it basically, within the 15-dimensional time matrix, starts to blend in to the elementals. It starts to build into the base building blocks of our creation. And so therefore, this is where we get the trapped fragments, the elemental fragments and beings that get stuck. So within this, let me actually read a little bit more, and then this whole book is really there's almost 1,400 pages in here, so I'm only going to do a few with you guys. But let's go into what is it that we are doing. The glide, the slide, and the span. These sound like really fun, fancy words, but here's what they are really referring to. The glide is basically being able to access your Rasha body, and through your Rasha body, this is going to be the energy of being able to glide basically into your spirit body through your consciousness. But you would be taking, it's a projection. It is like you're taking your consciousness into another field. Slide would be if you start to amplify your energies to a particular degree where you could actually find the right spanner gates and begin to actually move through them, and how much of your physical form. There is possibility and certain potentials to actually take your physical body into a glide projection, but you have to have really worked on a massive level of your dark matter template in order to do that. So let's look at here. A glide is a Rasha body projection journey, which differs significantly from a simple astral or mental body projection used in remote viewing. Simple projection dynamics. Use the projection vehicle, specific portions of the personal anatomy known as the light body, the outermost or surface radiation levels of multidimensional anatomy. Rasha body anatomy glide projection requires activations of portions of the personal Rasha dark matter body, which serves as a template upon which the outer light body and physical matter body form. There are 4 levels to this Rasha body projection, corresponding to the 4 domains of the Rasha body anatomy. And when she's saying this, what we want to recognize is that you have Rasha body levels to you. So each of your different Rasha body levels actually corresponds to different domains of Rasha body anatomy of the earth. This is all going to make sense here in a minute, you guys. We have the outer Rashale radionic, the middle Rashale adonic, the inner Rashala. Let me say this right. It's Rashale, Rashali, and Rashala. And the Rashala is the adonic, and then the core Rasha etonic. Okay, so let's go ahead and slide over to some other graphs here. So 100%, we've been looking at this vertical map because this vertical map as of 2024, the date that when we are talking right now, this is everything. This is the map of our ascension plan right now. If you guys want to know what's happening on the planet, where are we going, what is happening, what are we doing, this is the map you want to study. This is the map you want to look at. This is what the crystal cathedrals are activating right now and working with. So primarily when we start to look at these particular platforms, and I know it's a little bit blurry, this comes page 32. All of these documents I think on here are from the KDDL2 PDF that you can look at, and you can probably get a cleaner version on there. So what we are doing at this particular time is we are first activating the Aurora platforms. Now we have these different passageways that have been made available to us. So we have something called the Anastasia passageway. that actually moves up through our sphere. So you can see if we step it down, it comes from the Andromeda Mother Galaxy through Sirius B. It moves through these cloud cities. It moves into areas connected down, down, down into the Aquiline sun fields. And basically, it has a connection to Earth and Eartha. So there's Earth with an E and then Eartha with a U, which is this Shala 13 gate. So just as a quick for you guys to have a visual, Eartha with a U is actually a three-dimensional version of Earth that never went into fall, that still exists within the Andromedan Mother Galaxy. So it is Earth that never went into the whole cataclysm and all the dramas and traumas that we've been studying through our galactic history. It is the version of us that never fell. And it is still there within the Andromedan Mother Galaxy, and it is one of the primary places that we do tap into and pull frequency from, because it helps us overwrite the distorted frequencies within this template in place. Now, as we are working with the crystal cathedrals right now, what we are doing is activating the aurora platforms. Well, these aurora platforms are associated to the different levels of our Rasha body. So they are associated to the different levels of going with the Rasha La, the Rasha Li, and the Rasha Le. They are the aspects of the anatomy that, as we start to work with these four creation domains of space, time, matter, each Rasha layer um, is activating and opening up. And I'm going to have to summarize this because it's kind of all over the place in this document. But what this is doing is that we start to activate each of these levels. Oops, wrong document. Each of these levels of this activation, we are now starting to have access to the frequencies and codes that are coming online. Well, the ones that have just been recently coming online have been opening up and activating the aurora platforms in the subterranean, so the inner crystalline caverns. Okay, and these inner crystalline caverns, as they start to open up within, they start to open up the inner passageways for us. Every single one of these, if I could just summarize this in another way, all of these are the activations of you receiving and integrating all of the codes necessary to pass through the sphere of Amenте. This is the sphere of Amente activation process. But the sphere of Amente activation process is having to be done in a very guardian, creative way, because the sphere of Amente was not able to come down and anchor directly into the core of the earth the way it was originally designed to do. We know that history, that it had to get pulled back. And even in the years, as it was around the year 2000, when it was going to start to activate as settling back in and attempting that anchoring back into the core of the earth, it again had to get pulled back. And so at this point, what is happening is the sphere of Amente is actually safely held within these bands in the Andromedan Mother Galaxy. It's held within these particular bands, is the best way I can say it, the fields within there. And as it's held in this safe zone within there, what is happening is these inner chambers and these inner passageways are opening up within the crystalline core of the earth that start to give us the codes that keep kind of moving us to the next level, to the next level, to the next level of our ascension process. We are activating our multiple levels of our Rasha body in order for us to actually go to the sphere of Amente, not for the sphere of Amente to come to us. I hope that makes sense. I know this is a little bit complicated in some of its way. So as we are doing that, this has been activated. Well, the next level of activation comes to the cloud cities. This is the next level of activation that is happening right now. And I find this very fascinating when you actually think about, well, where are the cloud cities? Guess what? The bottoms of their oceans. So if you were to be in one of the cloud cities and go swimming in their ocean and go down to the very depth of their ocean, the bottom of their ocean is the surface of our ocean. Just as a mind kind of mess for you guys, but it's in a different, completely different dimensional sphere. And that's why we don't see it, because our perception has to be opened up to it, to that frequency band, to actually be aware of it. So as we start to work within these energies, we're seeing that each of these is taking us into levels of awakening these energies within. Because as we awaken them within, we start to realize we are the ones that are responsible for going through our transformation of our body process. So basically, if we can understand that you, as the core star that you are, came down into this earth as something known as a body cell, as basically this core spark that you are, and that this core spark that you are is your quantum spark that came into creation. And basically, as you came into creation, we talk about this in the azure point, the bottom of the thymus, the eighth chakra, the bottom of the eighth chakra. Your body cell, basically, or your Xeon, is later what we kind of start to move it into. It anchors in this Xeon, it anchors in into the bottom here, and then there's another quanta that goes down and anchors in into the tip of your tailbone that starts to create your embedment into your nervous system, feeding off of the information of the third dimensional world. Well, you can see within here that as we integrate in through probabilities. And so part of what we're doing throughout this time is we are starting to transmute. So coming back over to this document, we are transmuting the elemental vapors within these cells in order to dissipate all the inorganic quanta within it. So within this, part of this is where we talk about a lot of times getting rid of or vaporizing the original quanta that was donated by each parent at the point of conception of the egg's fertilization. We are unplugging. So this is very much like the similar stages of the Avadhut, that is unplugging or stepping out of the elements. What we have to do is recognize that when our quanta or our spark came into this creation, that it immediately started to take on all of the miasma and the inorganic or the elemental stuff that started to attach to it. As that starts to attach to it, that we want to recognize that at the time of death, if we have not gone through the process of clearing out and vaporizing all of that inorganic encryption on our body cell, it says right here, our identity will become trapped within the light body, which again is part of this 15-dimensional time matrix, unable to ascend into the spirit body, and will remain tethered to the space-time coordinates into which its mortal body was born. That is massive, you guys. It's saying it's all on us. Every part of our ascension process is really how are we unplugging our consciousness from the different inorganic encryptions that have been embedded within our quanta, our spark. And as we begin to unplug that energy, we start to free our consciousness from being tethered to the space-time coordinate to where our mortal body is. Well, our mortal body is sitting here on a third dimensional earth, which means this is exactly where we're going to end up again, because it says right here, the identity will be required by the laws of physics to reincarnate with a quantum reduction that is equal to the quantum that was lost and remained trapped within the portions of the physical body that were not transmuted to elemental vapor. Right there, elemental vapor. Moreover, the other identities in space-time to whom we would basically belong to are also trapped in reincarnational time until their missing quantum finds them. You guys, you could dissect that paragraph right there as to why are we here? Why am I stuck here? Why does Earth feel like so many people go, why does it feel like a prison planet? I went through those thought forms for a long time too. realizing it's us. We're the ones that are stuck here. Our consciousness is stuck here. So what are we doing? We're clearing our quanta of consciousness, because when we clear it, we actually clear all of our other soul avatar identities from being stuck into reincarnational cycles. So part of this is the process of getting out of here. Now, within this, let me actually move into this, because even within this particular document, I find this amazing, because here again, what are we doing? We are working with the vibrational energy. Actually, let me move up. No, let me go ahead and do this one, and then I'll move back up. So, what is binding us? We're talking about the lower elementals, the inner elementals. We're talking about the shadow dancers, the elemental attachments, all of this. It's physics. It's just physics. We're freeing our consciousness for our consciousness to start to expand the alphabet of language within us in order to breathe in these new frequencies. So even within here, I just wanted to touch on this really quick. It says, now most people have been most people that have been doing that without running the elementals. So basically she's talking about connecting to the elementals, connecting to, you know, maybe indigenous kinds of practices out there, medicine wheels, and connecting to the elementals of earth, and grounding in the earth and sky element and earth element and water element and fire element, and even the elemental mantras from um, these practices that we are doing. We can imagine that if we were not implementing our crystal river spiral within them, it would be very dangerous. And I know this sounds a little bit like, wait a minute. I thought a lot of the indigenous practices and earth-based practices were really good. Well, not with such a heavily infiltrated elemental system. Our elementals are hijacked in this system. So no, they're not safe. That's where a lot of the dark magic comes from. So she's saying for those that are not running the elemental command, they are calling in elements you'd be better off without, because there are elements that have been progressively corrupted by the beast machine. Beast machine, again, is scalar technology. It's black hole technology. And it's saying that the threshold grids and the perversion that has happened to the elemental kingdom on this planet because of those black hole technologies. So basically, all of these beast machine, these Metatronic technologies that have literally created these reversals in the scalar fields, have created like these vortexes that are now creating basically distortions to the elemental fields. So many of the practices that we may have thought have been very shamanic or good, and this is where I put a lot of discernment onto people's awareness of, if you do plant medicine, there's a lot of people that love to do these kind of journeys in order to expand consciousness. Well, most of the beings you will connect to in those journeys, if you are not running Christic codes, are going to be these mischievous elementals. Even if they're posing as particular things, you've just got to be so careful. I'm not saying to not do any of these things. I'm just saying, please, please, please be so careful as you're working with all of these energies. Now I'm going to summarize within this one right here of this vibration of the starborn process. So what are we doing with these energies? Again, we are activating our Rasha body so that we can go through something known as the starborn process. The starborn process is basically connected to our Rosetta flowering. And within this, the Rosetta flowering, and I'm kind of summarizing this within here, is basically represents the core elemental currents, of which are foundation to the emergence of the elemental consciousness field. So when we're doing elemental command, these are the elemental consciousness fields that we want to really start tapping into. So when we start to do our starborn process, we're starting to activate our Rosetta flowering, or our Rosetta process. Our Rosetta process is starting to connect us to the Unipsi, or the God field consciousness fields. Okay, the Unipsi starts to connect us with the core domains and the in cycle that takes us back home to the core domains. That we basically have these 4 seed atoms within our body that we're constantly working with. We have the outer domain seed that is connected to the azure, that place at the bottom of our thymus, this blue dot within here. So we have the azure that will connect us to the outer domains. Think of that as starting to unplug from the outer elementals. Then we have our middle domain, which is the Edonic seed atom. And this is going to be down, she doesn't mark all of them, but the azure, then there's one basically at the tip of the tailbone. She's saying it's between your legs, where there are 2 others that would go to these inner domain hubs. And then we have these other ones that kind of expand from us that start to take us out to the core domain worlds. Well, what are these connecting us to again? These are connecting us to these aurora platforms. As we start to activate each of these starts to activate us out into higher dimensional planes or levels from within. So I want to also just very quickly show you, if you went to Ascension Glossary to look up Rosetta. Again, the Rosetta is very important. It's our living light current that embodies the unified breath of our cosmic mother and cosmic father that forms these blooming roses that symbolize the divine fire, water, ice codes. These codes emanate from the cosmic hall of records and saturate our human bioneurology and breath with plasma flowering roses. So this is our integration. The Rosetta is actually, remember, it's coming from the core domain worlds. And as we start to learn these anatomies and activations, primarily the command on the elements, we start to activate this plasma breath and breathing into our systems of our body that directly start to move through our vertical energy channels, our sacral center and our heart center. So just kind of summarizing this, because there's a little bit to this. This basically is connecting us and anchoring divine love, purity, unity, activating our diamond heart template in the Christos embodied beings, and thus facilitating our planetary and cosmic ascension. This is really huge. So I would invite you guys to check this out. I think we touched on this particular image on the last cosmic deep dive that we did, so that you can actually see all of these are just interweaving and tying in together in a really beautiful way. So just a couple last things as we just tie in the last of this, you guys. I want to take you guys now to our crystal cathedrals. And as we move into our crystal cathedrals, we're going to see that we can see these passageways and they're awakening within us. Just for fun, this is actually your Crystar Rochelle body sacred geometry. So I think I did bring another image just to give you guys a little bit of a template of this. We have our base Merkaba. Again, these are cut and paste, so they're a little blurry. Our base Merkaba spin, that when we start to activate it into our Christos Merkaba spin, it starts to have more of a quanta to it. Then we start to actually amplify it into our Quanta Rua, which is actually our double biveka, as it starts to amplify us higher and higher levels of consciousness. But what are we working on? If you can actually just see this symbol right here, in the way that it doesn't really look like a triangle, does it? Well, what we're doing is we're activating our levels of our triveka Merkaba. It's our Crystar Crystal Ascension capsule and the Rochelle body. So when we start to activate our Rochelle body, our Merkaba actually takes on a whole other vision to it as it starts to activate within these spans. So now as we activate within these, here's where we are right now. We are working with something that is referring to these cathedral networks on the planet. And I'm just going to show this image so that you can go back to this. I'm not going to dive into this too much, but these are the 5 main locations, and each of the 5 main locations has its own separate kind of array of locations that feed into it. As each of these are activating, they are activating through something referred to as these Mahayana master councils or core encryption. These are beings. So within this, let's now take it back to the elemental command. I did have one more place I needed to take you guys within here, and this is page 37. So the very first level of what we started to work with, understanding the elemental commands, is learning the Crystal River prayer. We've said it, we say it probably many of us every day, listen to it every day. Now we're starting to understand, oh wait, there's something quite profound about this. Well, each of these sound tones is starting to activate right here, the elemental command invocation. So when we start to activate within this, we're going to start to see that right here, we're invoking the Reja Veja un Cristallo Elemental Invoki, the Crystal River Elemental Command Invocation in the name of the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, Holy Order of the Unisai. The Unisai, remember, is connecting us to that Rosetta, the Sacred House of One. So then we call upon our crystal councils, the councils of Crystal A, Crystal River, and Aurora. But then here we are. Here are our Christic powers of the Shae d'Amour, the Jeete Dure, the Aquiel, the Et Lea Cristale, and the Ita Shale. These we have all already been saying on a regular basis. And now as you start to recognize, why are we commanding on these right here? Even Sri Kalishwar, what does he say? Command on the elements. Right here, what are we doing? We now command with the entrusted powers of Aurora Light, and we invoke the eternal Christed Sun to co-create, release, and renew this place. So, well, what are we doing? We are commanding on the elements, but what we are doing is we are commanding on the, right here, Christic, the Christic powers, the Christic elementals, right?
Okay. Yes.
So I'll just ask, there's somebody unmuted if you want to grab that really quick. And so as we start to recognize this, now the invitation for you is, as you work with activating the elementals, go ahead and realize that you are first always activating your Christed self, your Christed body, your Christed connection, your 48 dimensional shield. You are connecting to the councils. You are connecting to the Christic powers of the elementals. This is the first next layer up. This is really starting to connect into the template where we start to connect into the Christic elementals that are connected more to our spirit body. But now we are taking it to the next level. So I'm going to take you now to the next level out. This next level out is now working with the Rhea, the Re Sayun, the Sameya, the Yasefa, the Breya, and the Shedalun. Now we are working with the earth crystal elemental beings, the water elemental beings, the air elemental beings, the fire elemental beings, and the ether elemental beings. Each of these has command of different virtues. Each of these virtues corresponds to a different cathedral. As we activate these virtues and these levels of elemental command within us, we start to shift and change our very elemental chemistry within ourselves, as we are basically evaporating the very things that have been holding the shards, the miasmas, and the shadow dancers and the fragmented elementals within us. And as we work with these, the last thing, just to kind of summarize this, is I'm going to take you now back to our website here. And if we go back up into here, now we're going to complete with this very energy that we started with, the elemental caves of creation. That this is really at the top of this activation for elementals for a reason. Even though we're working with elementals and we know we're going to be doing mantras to activate for the womb chakra work, at the very beginning, where do I start you? Please start with the elemental caves of creation. Well, the elemental caves of creation are 100% a journey that takes you through activating your Trua body, which is your plasma body. So the very first step we do is we start to connect to these elemental caves, these internal caves. And where are these caves located? These caves are located in these different, these different places. Basically these caves are located right here in the Aurora Platform 1, the subterranean earth between the upper and middle mantles. This is where these elemental caves are where you are connecting. And as you connect to them, they're going to go through 5 different ones. As you start to work with them, what you're doing is you're activating an energy within you. The violet flame, I think I just accidentally touched it. The violet flame is going to connect you to basically turning into a violet flame being that'll allow you to actually utilize the violet flame to transmute energy, to clear miasmas, to clear miasma, dis-ease, soul fragments, soul things that are stuck within the body. You can begin to utilize a violet flame to clear out. The green crystal energy starts to activate an element within you that starts to move within this body of this breath. And this breath actually kind of moves like these bubbles and pops. It pops any of these distortions or miasmas and then breaks them down into transmutable sizes to begin to purge out and clear out of the system. The blue waters are going to be, again, just kind of what it says, but it's a current of energy that comes from the Ka Ra Ya Sa Ta Ha La. So it gives you access as almost an aquatic level, but it's almost more of a vapor water that connects you to the K+8 suns. So really kind of tapping you into the Alay energies. The air element is going to basically be a quickening energy. You can actually work with that in order to quicken your energy, how you learn, how your mind thinks, all of these kinds of things. It makes energy move a lot faster. And then the ethers is quite amazing because it actually starts to make you beyond form. Like you can move through anything. And as you move through anything, it gives you the ability to actually embed Christic codes into anything you pass through. So say you were passing through a wall, you could literally embed the Christic codes within there. So within this, it's very special for us to recognize that we want to really start with the awareness of what are we doing as flame body activators. Start to work with it. We are activating our plasma body, our Rasha body levels. We don't have to entirely know what all of it is, but we start to know it's an important part of our anatomy that is allowing our consciousness safe bardo passage so that we're not stuck here anymore. As we work with that plasma body, that we can work with these very advanced elemental commands that really come from the core 8 suns. And as we work with those help to activate the crystal cathedrals within the earth. Those basically then help us to work with the Christic powers of the elementals that come from the crystal river spiral. And then as you go through activating your elements, to make, again, the work of the womb chakra effective and powerful, that you are not just working with the outer elements. You're not even working with the inner elements, but you are actually working with the pure elements that have come from the source of Elasa. And so within this is that as we are doing this, these are some of the anatomies within our elements that we need to know to a degree, because this is the very current thing that is happening on planet Earth right now. If you want to know where's our ascension cycle, what are we doing? We are moving into the sphere of Amente, but we have to get here, and this is how we do it. So I hope this has been informative for you guys as another deep dive into something to contemplate, to play with, and give you a little bit more to just think about as you're doing your practices. So thank you guys so much.